So we're in world history, and we're going to go on to section 2 in chapter 15. And we're going to be talking about the golden age of Spain and going on to discuss Portugal and then on to the Netherlands. But the golden age of Spain, let's talk about that. It started in 1492 to 1588. Two big events happened here, how you can remember that. What happened in 1492? Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Yep. Columbus sailed for Spain. He was Italian that sailed for Spain, and he discovered America, even though he didn't know that he did. But that's the date, because it's the discovery of America and the gold and riches that happened later on, bringing forth from South America and such, made Spain extremely wealthy. So 1492, the golden age, just think of gold. On to 1588. What happened in 1588? We're going to find that the whole Spanish Armada was destroyed by England. So we'll see these two dates important, because this was the golden age that Spain ruled the world. Here we have who is this? Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain, who sent Columbus. The reign of Ferdinand and Isabella marked the beginning of the Golden Age, a time of tremendous power, prestige, and prosperity in Spain. The exploration and conquest of the new lands made them extremely wealthy, and Spain extremely wealthy. The Spanish monarchy now, under Ferdinand and Isabella, ruled the whole area of Europe practically, and was most important in politics in Europe. And Spain was unrivaled, as the greatest nation in the world. Unrivaled. That means everyone knew that Spain was the richest country in the world at this time. The Spanish monarchy, the Spanish kings. So after Ferdinand and Isabella in 1516, Charles I, the grandson of Ferdinand and Isabella, became king. Charles' father just happened to be the Archduke of Austria. So his father, being that Archduke of Austria, he was a member of this Habsburg royal family that ran extremely wealthy family that ran most of Austria. So now we have Charles. He inherits Spain, the golden age of Spain, the richest country, and now he also inherits Austria, Netherlands, and Luxembourg, and some of Italy from his Habsburg royal family. So here we have a Holy Roman Emperor now. So he was elected and became Charles V, the defender of the Roman Church. So he followed Catholicism. He followed the Roman Church, the popes, and basically followed whatever Charles V, remember how Charles V persecuted the Protestants, and so would now Charles I in Spain, focusing from Spain, Austria, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. And so he was very important in the European politics and struggle with the Lutherans, of course. He would persecute the Lutherans. In 1556, he retired to a Spanish monastery and left Spain and the Netherlands, and left his kingdom to his son, Philip II, and the Holy Roman Empire to his brother Ferdinand, which they both were devout Romans, Romanism, Catholics, so. But we'll find Philip here. Here's a picture of Charles here. So, and see how he looks, kind of a homely looking guy, huh? And then on to Philip II. I would say Philip was the bloodiest Spaniard of his persecution of so many people and innocent people put to death. And we're going to see later on, in fact, his marriage to Bloody Mary of England, they became the couple with the bloodiest past. I could say, if you want to say evil, how evil can reign, I would say it reigned in Philip and Bloody Mary. Philip II became even more powerful than his father. And we're going to be talking about him when we talk about England. Like I said, his goal was to bring everyone back to the Catholic Church. And so his goal would be persecuting. And because some of the countries, especially the Netherlands and England, had become Christians, and Christians under the Protestant name, and not only that, but also under Calvinist name, so under John Calvin's converting lot to Christianity. And so he would persecute them majorly. He controlled much of the earth's surface at that time, and Spain controlled possessions all around the world, which he controlled. And in Portugal in 1580, he would also take over the Portuguese claims in Asia and South America. So Spain would control, I would say, he'd be ruler of the world at that time. Spain had constant conflicts with France, England, the Ottoman Empire, which was Muslims, and the Netherlands. And Spain also had the most powerful fleet and powerful armies to be maintained around the world. So Philip knew he had to keep his armies going constantly to keep everyone in step and to believe the way he would tell them to believe. And he supported the Pope. He was like the Pope's right-hand man. Philip and the Roman Church. Philip was fanatically devoted to the Pope and the Roman Church more than his father, Charles. He dedicated his wealth and his power to defeat Protestantism and vowed to conquer the world for the Roman Church. His attempt to impose Romanism upon England and the Netherlands resulted in the defeat of Spain's invincible armada in 1588, bringing Spain's golden century to an inglorious end. Remember when I said the golden age of Spain would end in 1588? And we're going to see this miracle that happened where England, united with the Netherlands, came against this invincible armada and won. And we'll find then the decline of Spain and decline of the golden era of Spain and of Philip. Here's a picture of Philip. He wanted them all to be worshiping him. Here's a picture of the Spanish Armada coming in, and we're going to talk about that more later on here in this chapter. Spain's response to the Reformation. Okay, the Reformation came into Spain. People started getting saved in Spain, but anyone who believed and read the Bible or followed any of Martin Luther or Calvin or anything other than the Roman Catholic Church would be snuffed out, persecuted and killed. The Roman Church had much power in Spain that the Reformation was quickly snuffed out before it could have influence on the people of Spain. That's what I said, snuffed out. Philip intensified the Spanish Inquisition, driving away any reformers to the country of Spain. By the end of the 16th century, Spain began to decline. You would think, isn't that? As you snuff out Christians and snuff out the Lord, trying to prevent, a revival to happen in Spain or a Reformation to happen in Spain, and Spain would end up declining, losing its colonies and everything. So Spain had tightened script in the homeland. So Spain had started losing a lot of its colonies, and so had focused, just focusing on Spain then, but tightened the grip so tight that there was no freedom at all in Spain, politically, religiously, or economically in the colonies. Here's a picture of the Inquisition. Anybody that wore these pointed hats, you'd think look like dunce hats, we'd call them. That's what they put on anybody that was Christian or was Protestant, anyone that was not following the laws and duties of Catholicism at that time, the Romanism, we'll call it Romanism. Anyway, they would put these hats on them and march them down the street, embarrass them, and then torture them. The Spanish Inquisition was the worst. Okay, let's stop. We're going to turn to Portugal. Remember, Portugal is right next to Spain. Well, Portugal, as we've already studied, was very, very wealthy at that time too, because they had control of some of the vast overseas empires. In 1500, Portugal was one of the leading nations of Europe. In 1600, they began to decline, and the Roman Church came in and held control of any religious freedom in Portugal too. In fact, in 1536, King John III introduced the Portuguese Inquisition. But that Inquisition, as there weren't very many reformers or Protestants anymore in Spain and Portugal, but there were some Jews. So basically, the persecution focused on the Jews of Portugal. And the Jews at that time were very involved in commerce, but they all had to flee or be killed. So what happened? The commerce fled too. So it affected the nation's banking and commercial power. So Portugal started to decline. John III of Portugal, okay, he was during this Inquisition. He was the king of Portugal, and he adopted some very inept policies. He drove the farmers out of their land. Not a good deal, right? To drive your farmers from your land. And then he increasingly used slaves. So Portugal would be full of slaves. Because Portugal, as you remember, went around Africa, so he had his African ships bring back tons of unwilling people to be slaves from Africa. And he reduced the crown's revenues while enlarging the debt. So when you ever, like we have a huge debt, that's going to be our downfall. When you have a huge debt, well, Portugal had a huge debt, so it was controlled by the banking, whoever was controlled of the money that was lending. So Portugal would end up falling. After John's death, the Portugal royal family totally died out. He was the last of the kings of Portugal, John III. Portugal did not gain its independence from this until 1640 because Spain, Philip II of Spain, seized the Portuguese throne in 1580. So Portugal was just part of Spain and was controlled by this big tyrant here, Philip. Just always remember he's Spain. If you ever remember anybody from Spain, remember Philip. He's the monster tyrant. And so he took over the throne, and Portugal never knew greatness again, ever. But Hispanic means Spanish. You see Span in there? Hispanic contributions and culture to the New World. But in the New World, in South America, in Central America, and in North America, Spain gave its language and its culture to the New World. So that's why you say, especially in Mexico, you can see how Mexico resembles Spain, in the speaks Spanish. So despite all that, Spain left its contribution of their language and their culture. All of South America, Central America, Mexico, most of the Caribbean, and parts of North America, like I said before. Spaniards brought their horses, new breeds of cattle, also bringing oranges and lemons. There was a lot of, and of course the culture, the Spanish culture was brought, even to the point of like bullfighters and such, was brought to America. Brazil is on the eastern part of South America. Brazil was accidentally discovered by Portugal, Brazil was given, the area of Brazil was given to Portugal because of the discovery, of Portugal, you see here. And it was the largest and most populous country in South America. Now it even is still the most largest country and populous country. and Portugal is still the official language for today. Contributions in literature. Spain's writer, the most famous writer, is Miguel de Cervantes. And in 1541 to 1616, he wrote Don Quixote. And that was a book about this squire that considered himself a knight when knights were no longer in fashion. He was like the last of the knights. And it's actually a pretty, I should say, fun book to read in some ways as being a comedy. Louis de Camões, I think that's how you pronounce, 1524 to 1580, was a Portuguese writer. He wrote this long epic poem on Portugal's history and Portugal's heroes. So these were two contributions in literature. Okay, now we're going to stop here and I'm going to talk about the Netherlands because it's going to take longer to talk about them, about the Reformation, because you'll see how what happened in the Netherlands was pretty atrocious. So let's stop there.